Hello, and welcome to the second episode of BrettCast, the show where I take all my series and jam them into one longer video that releases once, maybe twice a month. Coming up on this episode, Gaming Talk will start things off where I'm going to talk about Warframe, Destiny 2, compare and contrast both, and give my opinions on looter-shooter games as a whole. Then, What's New With comes in where I talk about upcoming Warhammer releases. After that, it's time for my thoughts on, where I'm going to be giving some of my own ideas that I have for LEGO sets based on parts of the Arrowverse TV shows. And finally, I'm going to finish things up with movie and TV talk where I read and discuss some of the plot holes for Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. With that out of the way, let's begin. Hello, and welcome to the Gaming Talk segment. On this segment, I'll start by talking about and comparing my experiences with both Warframe and Destiny 2, and then give my general thoughts on looter-shooter games as a whole. With that out of the way, let's get into it. I'm going to say right up front that of the two games I'm going to be talking about, I like Warframe more. Now, the big obviously difference is that Warframe is 100% free, whereas a small amount of Destiny 2 can be accessed for free, but you still have to buy the expansions. You know, I like that. I like when a game like Warframe is actually free. Destiny 2's motto is more akin to that of an MMO like The Elder Scrolls Online, since you have to buy all the DLC and expansions separately. And honestly, Destiny 2 really never captivated me enough to want to buy its expansions. But I still like the soundtracks. Now, an unfortunate thing both games have is that both are very grindy. I don't remember what Destiny 2 had because it's been a long time, but I've played Warframe very recently, and its mastery ranks feel like it takes forever to hit the next rank. It's annoying, because there's some blueprints that I have that require it, and I want the blueprint item, but not the grind for the next mastery rank. Now, one downside that Warframe has that Destiny 2 doesn't is crafting timers. Yeah, that's one comparison I get to make between Warframe and the Elder Scrolls Online, since ESO has research timers that can be quite absurd in length. Remember, the first thing I made in Warframe took 23 hours to make, and yeah, I could speed it up, but I didn't want to spend my other in-game currency that isn't credits because I only had 50 and didn't want to waste them on that. I like that in Warframe I was able to choose to make my game solo, which as far as I know is not something I was able to do in Destiny 2. Honestly, one of my biggest problems with Destiny 2 was other players. I'd get put in a Nightfall mission with random people, and I swear, every single person is trying to speedrun the thing, and it really annoyed me. And I actually had that happen one time in Warframe before I figured out that I can make my game solo and switched it to that indefinitely. I don't know what it is with other players in both Warframe and Destiny 2. Why you want to speedrun these missions and things, it's beyond me, and I find it very annoying. Plus, I feel like you miss out on the loot if you're just trying to get through these things as fast as possible, but that's just me. I don't know, maybe it is me, since I've never really cared for looter-shooter games in general. They have so much grind to them and so much repetitive content. I can't tell you how many missions in Warframe are just wave defense missions, and it gets old really quickly. Like, that's coming from a guy who loves playing, Firefight on Halo Reach and Halo 3 ODST and Spec Ops Survival in Modern Warfare 3. Even types of missions, like the excavation ones, boil down to just wave defense in Warframe, while just protecting something. I don't really remember the story content in Destiny 2, but I played a lot of Nightfall Strikes since I was playing for free, and those were repetitive as well. Still, if I had to pick between the two, I would still prefer Warframe over Destiny 2, and I always will. But that's all I have here, and that brings the Gaming Talk segment to a close. Hello, and welcome to the What's New With segment. In this segment, I'm going to be talking about what's new with in the Warhammer area. I'm only going to be talking about the miniatures this time. I don't really care about Black Library and whatnot. With that out of the way, let's get into it. First, we have 3 new boarding patrols. The first is the Adeptus Sororitas. I didn't say that right. Which includes 1 Canoness, 5 Celestian Sancrinsantes, 10 Sister Repentias, and 10 Battle Sisters. Second is the Adeptus Custodes, which includes Alaris Custodians, 5 Custodian Guard, and 1 Trajan Valoris. Third, we have the Thousand Suns, which includes 2 Chaos Spawn and 20 Rubric Marines. Next, we have a slew of new Necromunda stuff. The first is an entirely new expansion titled The Vaults of Temens. We have the Enforcer Sanctioner Pattern Automata. Following that is the Cawdor Ridge Walkers alongside the Ashwood Stranger Outcast Leader. From there, we have the return of the Space Marine Terminator. Not much to say, really, other than it looks awesome, and I would definitely love to paint some of these, but I'm sure that they'll throw 3 in a box and ask like $60 for it. We also have a new Termagant for those that care about Tyranids. Honestly, I've never really had the want to paint any of these, but that's just me. From there, we have a new Warhammer Underworlds box set titled Word Hollow. The box includes everything in it: miniatures, boards, dice, token, and 4 complete Rivals decks for easy out-of-box play. Cities of Sigmar is getting these human soldiers that look a little bit weird to me. We then have some new models for the Soulblight Gravelords. We have Mortison Ossifector up first, followed by Ivya Volga, the Outcast. We also have updated versions of the Ossiarch Bone Reapers Battle Tomes and the Soulblight Gravelord Battle Tomes. We also have some new models for those that enjoy the Seraphon. We have some Agridon Lancers, followed by Saurus Scar Veteran on Agridon, followed by Croxagor Warspawn. God, saying these things out loud is insane. Next, there's a new Kill Team box set called Gallowfall. This box set is all about Salvagers versus the Ravagers, and of course, new models to go with that. Lastly, Lion Ijansan, Primarch of the Dark Angels, returns to 40k with this pretty badass looking model that I kind of want because I have the other 2 bigger dudes. And all 3 would look cool together. Now, I know there's a lot more I could cover, but that's all I feel like talking about for Warhammer stuff, which means that's going to be the end of the What's New With segment. Hello, and welcome to the My Thoughts On segment. Something I've been thinking about recently, which goes in hand with shows I've been watching recently, is something that could have been a huge moneymaker for LEGO. Can you guess what it is? It's the Arrowverse. Now, yes, there's some very rare, valuable, quite expensive, convention-exclusive minifigures of characters from the Arrowverse, but I'm thinking more than just minifigures. Yes, actual sets. And I have thought of some sets for as far as I am in the Arrowverse, and I think it would be cool for LEGO to do this, and it would have made them lots of money. I'm just going to preface this that this is only going to cover like Green Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow, because that's about as far as I've gotten so far, so you know, it's not going to be Superman and Lois, no Black Lightning, no anything else yet. There might be a part 2 to this. The obvious ones would be larger sets of the various Arrowverse caves, lairs, bases, whatever they fucking call it. Make it the size of some of the Batcave sets that have been released, like the one they did for the Batman. Of course, that means for minifigures, you could include pretty much all of Team Arrow in there. and you could change that up based on what season the set represents. You'd have, your mainstays like Green Arrow, various different outfits, of course, Spartan, Speedy, Black Canary, and Felicity. Of course, to go with that, you could do a set of the club that Thea owned and operated that was right above their lair in the first and second seasons of the show. That way you could have minifigures be Oliver Queen, Thea Queen, Felicity, John Diggle, and Laurel Lance. It would probably be decently sized set if I'm honest, but that's just my idea for it. Let's talk about the Flash next. Probably akin to the Arrow Lair sets I just mentioned. I would start with a very large Star Labs set, one that kind of covers as many seasons of the show as possible. Of course, for minifigures, you would have the Flash, Barry Allen, Caitlin, Cisco, Joe, Wally, Iris, the Earth 2 Dr. Wells, and Earth 2 Jesse Wells, and Jesse Quick. And I'm pretty sure that would be everyone. Another one you could do is the Allen House. Again, it would be fairly large set, but it doesn't really matter because it's just ideas in my head. Anyway, for minifigures, you could have Barry Allen, the Flash, Nora Allen, Henry Allen, and Reverse Flash. Of course, a notable feature in the set would be the recreation of Nora's death scene. In any scene that has the Flash, go back in time to try to stop that from happening. For a possible small set, maybe do one based on the little scene where Barry captures and imprisons Reverse Flash after he stops him from killing his mom. I don't know, it's a possibility, but it would be one that would only have the Flash and Reverse Flash in the set. And now I'm going to talk about some ideas for Supergirl. I don't have as many because I'm not that far in the show, but I still have some ideas. The first and probably most obvious would be some sort of fairly large set based on the DEO. For minifigures, you'd have Supergirl, Alex Danvers, Winn, John Jones, Martian Manhunter. Another fairly large set that I think could work is something based on the Catco building. Maybe not the whole building, but at a single floor, like an office set type of thing. You could have Kara and Winn, their workstations, Cat Grant, and Jimmy Olsen's office as well. This means for minifigure you'd have Kara, Winn, Cat Grant, and Jimmy Olsen. The last one I could think of would maybe be her apartment, Kara's apartment. Again, a single floor idea for it, just her apartment. So you could have Kara, Alex, you could have John Jones still, Jimmy Olsen, whatever else. But that's kind of all I got for Supergirl. Lastly, I have a few ideas for the Legends of Tomorrow. The first and probably pretty obvious would be a UCS size set of the Wave Rider. It would open up and have most, if not all, the areas of this ship that we see in the show. It also would be obvious that you'd have the full crew of minifigures, which would include Rip Hunter, Mick Rory, White Canary, The Atom, Ray Palmer, Hawkgirl, Hawkman, and Firestorm. Yes, I know Hawkgirl and Hawkman leave, but again, trying to encompass as many seasons as possible. You could maybe include normal versions of Ray Palmer, Martin Stein, and Jefferson Jackson, but just having their hero counterparts also works fine. The other set that I thought of would be one based on the Justice Society of America headquarters when the Legends go to 1942. For minifigures, you would have Commander Steel, Rex Tyler, Vixen, Obsidian, Stargirl, and Dr. Midnight. But that's really all the Arrowverse LEGO set ideas that I have for now, which goes as far as I've watched in these shows. Again, there might be a part 2, but that's going to be the end of the My Thoughts On segment. Hello, and welcome to the Movie and TV Talk segment. So there's this site I discovered recently called MoviePlotHoles.com, and I didn't know about it for the longest time, so I'm sure you know exactly what I did. Yes, the first thing I did was look for Transformers, and yes, they have articles on 3 of them, Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, and Age of Extinction. So, For this segment, I'm going to look at, read, and discuss the plot holes for Revenge of the Fallen. So let's get started. Plot hole number 1. The Autobots and the US Army form a covert team that hunts down hiding Decepticons. Even if the last movie showed thousands of people witnessing a giant robot fight in a big city, and even if at the beginning of this movie thousands of new people witness a giant robot fight in Shanghai, no one seems to believe in the existence of Transformers. Okay, I do see where this one's coming from. The argument here is that because people saw the Autobots and Decepticons fighting in the Mission City battle in the first movie, why is it that in Revenge of the Fallen, the government trying to hide the existence of the Transformers, and why are there regular people that don't believe the Transformers exist given the events of the first movie, as well as the entire Shanghai situation at the beginning of Revenge of the Fallen? I do fully agree with the fact that this plot hole kind of makes no sense within the context of the movie. Plot hole number 2. A Decepticon pretender is sent to study at Sam's new college just in case they need to capture/kill him. Why Bumblebee didn't attack her or tell Sam about her when he had the occasion is also a mystery. Now, this one I don't fully agree with. For one, Bumblebee actually did attempt to warn Sam that something was wrong with Alice when the two were in the car together after the party. Bumblebee kept acting up until Alice got out of the car. I also don't really know when any of the Autobots would have had the opportunity to kill Alice. The Autobots are robots in disguise, so they can't just roll up to Sam's college, reveal themselves, kill Alice. That wouldn't make any sense. Now on the other side, perhaps once Alice reveals herself as a pretender, they would have been a fantastic moment to, have Sam dial up Bumblebee or whoever to come kill Alice, rather than it being the job of Sam and Michaela, an annoying guy who was with them. Would have been a hell of a lot less hassle if that were to have happened. Plot hole number 3. Megatron comes back to life because of an Allspark cube fragment. In the last movie, the Allspark cube is what caused him to die. If now the cube shards revive robots, why wasn't the second shard used on Optimus Prime? This one is interesting, I will admit. So this is mostly about the use of the Allspark fragment that was used to bring Megatron back. When you think about it, this does make a lot of sense. Why did our protagonists use the other fragment they had on Awakening Jetfire? Had they just used that fragment on Prime, they wouldn't have had to need to track down Jetfire, and everything that happened in Egypt wouldn't have had to happen. Yeah, it would have saved a lot of time. I can fully agree with this one. What I don't understand with this one is why they mentioned how in the first movie, the Allspark was used to kill Megatron. Unless it's to make the point that in one movie the Allspark ended the life of a Cybertronian, and in another movie, pieces of the Allspark are used to bring Cybertronians back to life, and that might not make sense then to say that. The only thing I can say to that is that in the first movie, it's very vague on the abilities of the Allspark, and maybe that was intentional. We see that in the movie, how the energy of in the first movie, how the energy of the Allspark turns our own technology into Transformers, basically. So that aspect was covered there. And there was nothing also that said it couldn't be used to kill a Cybertronian. I mean, the opening monologue in the first movie, or no, it wasn't even the opening monologue. I can't place where it was, but in the first movie, I think it was the opening of that movie, that on Optimus Prime's, speech at the beginning of the movie, that he specifically says that the Allspark was created to fill worlds with life, and that's how their race of Cybertronians was created. So the creation aspect and the revival aspect to me goes hand in hand, and so I feel like that was covered. But who's to say that, again, because they kind of keep the Allspark's power a bit of a mystery, just because it can revive and be a life-giving thing, why can it not end it? In basically every other Transformers media, like it's in, happens in G1, Transformers Prime, I'm pretty sure, and animated as well, that both the Autobots and Decepticons constantly talk about becoming, that when they die, they become one with the Allspark. If that continuity uses the Allspark, I should say. They become one with the Allspark. So, who's to say that the Allspark can't kill a Cybertronian or be used to do so? I don't know, but... Plot hole number 4. It is said that only a Prime can beat the Fallen. Then why is it that in the past, there were 8 Primes that could have destroyed him, but instead chose to melt all of their bodies in order to create a cave to protect the Matrix of Leadership? Wouldn't it have been simpler to not commit suicide and kill the Fallen 8v1? I have to wonder, why is this labeled as a super plot hole? First of all, minor technicality, the Fallen is one of the Primes. His actual name is Megatronus. So it would have actually been 7 versus 1. Still, the odds are pretty much against Megatronus. Now, if we remember to the moment in Revenge of the Fallen when Jetfire is telling the story of the Matrix of Leadership, he mentions that a great battle took place, bad accent, between the Fallen and the other Primes. Therefore, an attempt was made to kill the Fallen. And it got to the point where the other Primes decided that instead of continuing to fight this battle, they made the decision that preserving the Matrix was more important because they were more focused on making sure the Fallen can't get the Matrix to turn on the Sun Harvester and destroy the Earth's sun and subsequently doom the entirety of our planet. I mean, yeah, stopping the Fallen would be fantastic, but... you gotta think of the greater good there. The life of one, the Fallen, versus the life of many. The other Primes wanted to save our primitive life. So, I think that's a little bit more important than going 7v1 on the Fallen. This next one is a plot contrivance. When the Autobots save Sam from the Decepticons, everything is so contrived so that Prime fights 3 Decepticons at the same time in a forest. All Autobots arrive a couple of minutes after Prime, even though they left at the same time, following the exact same path at the exact same speed. Or are we to believe a truck is faster than a sports car? I feel like some of this is assuming a lot that isn't fully shown in the scene. Yeah. We do see the Autobots roll out after saving Sam from the little robot doctor. However, we don't see what route they take, which means we don't know if they took the same route and all drove the same speed. I feel like making an assumption like this already pokes holes in this so-called plot contrivance. Now, I can agree that it is odd that Prime is the first one to arrive, and what I think is that the writers forced Prime to arrive first so they can have that go into the forest battle scene, because I guarantee you they probably filmed the forest battle scene before anything else. I'm gonna wager that, because that movie was such a mess, they kind of did that because of the writer's strike. I do agree, though, that all of the Autobots probably should have arrived near the same time. I wouldn't say all at the same time, but near the same time. And if they had, Prime would never have gotten into a fight 3 against 1 and died, most likely. Lastly, we have a supposedly unaddressed issue with the movie. Jetfire, the old Decepticon in the museum, is able to teleport himself and his new human allies in Egypt. No other Transformers in the franchise is able to teleport. No explanation is given to his special and unique power. He just hasn't. This is partially untrue. The Fallen himself uses those powers in the movie as it is how he steals the Matrix from Prime, and Prime gets revived, or after Prime gets revived. It's like when like the whole military decides to roll up on the pyramids, everyone fires, and like the Fallen just kind of was like, like teleporting, up and around and stuff like that. Just, bam, bam, bam. So, saying that no other Transformers in the franchise does this, not true. What is true is that this ability for both Jetfire and the Fallen are not explained, but maybe it's just one of those minor things that doesn't need to be explained. Not everything needs to be explained in a movie, because it doesn't really matter in the long run, But there we have it, all of these supposed plot holes for Revenge of the Fallen according to MoviePlotHoles.com. That is going to end the movie and TV talk segment. And that's going to bring the second episode of BrettCast to a close. If you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. If you want to add to the conversation, leave a comment below. As always, thanks for listening, and goodbye.